I would now like to call upon Professor Shing Yao, Chairman of the 2014 HLMA Mathematics Awards Scientific Committee, William Casper Grostein, Professor of Mathematics at Harvard University and Director of the Institute of Mathematical Sciences at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, to come on stage to say a few words. Please welcome Professor Yao.
Well, thank you, Kelly. Mrs. Kelly Lam and Ronnie and friends of HLMA Award Committee. I'm very touched by what Ronnie just said. Indeed, if I have a choice between a life of me or Ronnie, I would choose my life. For a simple reason, it is much more tough to be street smart, to be successful in the market, compared with being a pure scientist, which is much easier life and much easier to succeed in many ways. But on the other hand, I feel enjoyable to do science, and I've been doing science for the last 50 years. And in fact, the first time I was so excited by scientific achievement was Professor Xian Yang getting his Nobel Prize. It has touched all the young guys in the young Chinese in the whole world. Either you are in mainland China, in Hong Kong, in Taiwan. Many of us was turned to be a scientist because of his great achievement. We start to gain our confidence of being a Chinese, that we would be able to excel. And indeed, there are many physicists, mathematicians, and many other scientists pick up the torch and were able to succeed in the modern world. And in the last 20 years, I have been coming back to China to help the establishment of education and research in mainland China and in Hong Kong and in Taiwan. The goal was to train our young children and young high school students and the postdocs to spearhead into a modern world. I feel not just for mathematics, but also for a modern society. You look around in the last 20 or 30 years, you can tell almost everything is dominated by the invention coming from mathematics eventually. Many of my friends in business could not realize how important mathematics have been. Many of my friends want me to help them to come to Harvard to study. Almost the first thing they want to ask is, I want my child to study in business school, in economics department. But little do they know that it's impossible to get into these departments or the business school without knowing mathematics well. Harvard Math Department has to train more than 2,000 students. All of them, well, not all of them, large amount of them come from the economics department and business school. If they do not pass those courses with good grade, they will not be able to go into economics department or go to business school. So many of my friends were very disappointed when they found their children are actually not good enough to study mathematics, because they want to go to business school or go to economics department. But of course, way beyond business school and economics department, almost every part of engineer or physical science are using mathematics. And in fact, we are seeing a new development in biological science where they need to use extensive data analysis to study biology. And we are watching the development of data analysis happening in all the web companies, Google, Alibaba, and all these are now paying intense research in data analysis and all that. All this depends on great deal of thinking and research in advanced mathematics. Therefore, in the last 20 years, with the help of Ronnie and also with the Chinese University of Hong Kong, with the Chinese Academy of Science and several major places, I've been working very hard to develop mathematics. One of the major things I think that is lacking in the Chinese background is more creative thinking. So one thing I talked with Ronnie about 10 years ago, actually 11 years ago, was to train the students in Hong Kong to be thinking about mathematics in a more creative way. So instead of just giving examinations for competition, we give projects. We ask them to think, to create projects that can be interesting for them eventually, that will help them to be creative. And I think it is a very successful experience the last 10 years. We see very creative way of thinking. Either they can get help from their parents or from their teacher and from their classmates. They work together, which we encourage them to do so. They work together, and they present beautiful presentation. Like yesterday, I was so touched by the well-trained students' presentations. I recommend Ronnie to try to hire some of this for his company. Just as a public relations, they are doing very well. But of course, way beyond public relations, they are really thinking creatively and very well done. So 10 years, we have produced many outstanding students. Some of them wrote to me in the past 10 years, asked me for advice to go to good universities and all that. And I think I have replied to every single of their requests. I will write recommendation letters, I will help them. And most of them are doing very well. Some of them, by now, is PhD, getting a PhD. Some of them are master, some of them are still bachelor degree. But all of them, I think, are doing very well. There's no doubt that I'm proud to be Hong Kongese. I still consider myself to be Hong Kongese. I spent my first 20 years of my life in Hong Kong. And I like Hong Kong because everybody is very creative and dynamical. We have no fear as a Hong Kongese. We feel something is important, intellectually interesting, we charge on. And I like the students that I saw. When they come to compete, they have the same feeling as I do. So I'm very pleased by that. And of course, with the competition, some got lost, won't get the award, some get it. But I advise all of you to be happy, because when I was in Hong Kong, I was a very good student. I think I'm the top student in preaching middle school, one of the best middle school in Hong Kong, probably in the world. And I tried to compete in some competition, and I lost completely. I did not get even honorary mention. But I never feel that I'm inferior to any people in mathematics. I became a reasonable good mathematician, even though I failed to get an award. So don't worry. Competition is a good test for you to exercise yourself, to think more creative and all that. For those who actually are going to win, which I'm proud of you because you're thinking very well, organized very well about your project. But the experience we had in the last, in this time, and probably last time also, the scope of knowledge that our students, our experience, has decayed a little bit. The reason is the Hong Kong education system probably has tried to follow American system, which was popular 10 years ago, try to water down the level of mathematics education in high school. But I think American has changed. Now is more forefront in terms of high-level education. I mentioned that because no matter how creative you are, of course, creativity is the major thing that we want in advanced research. But being creative cannot, well, in order to be truly creative, you have to know the knowledge. Just like when we play Kung Fu, we always say that you need to have Nui Gong before you become very good. And that is something, the very basic has to be studied well. And what happens is that calculus teaching has been watered down in Hong Kong. 10 years ago, I was very critical about teaching of calculus in China, mainland China. And it was a disaster 10 years ago when I was in China, going through high school students, knowing that they know nothing about calculus. And when we discussed with them about somewhat more advanced level mathematics, they just couldn't deal with calculus problem at all. And now, in the last 5 years, I saw a complete change of the attitude. And the best students, at least in China, they all know calculus. Not only that, they know calculus, they know differential equations, they even know stochastic differential equations, which amazed me. Some of them were able to use stochastic differential equation to do research in problems in economics. They are not necessarily very sophisticated, but on the other hand, the scope they are dealing with is much larger than what I see now in Hong Kong. Our Hong Kong students are great, creative and all that, but the tool in their box, in the toolbox, is much smaller without knowing calculus well. I think that's an experience with our committee members in our committee yesterday. So with our major government officers in this banquet, I would like to see Hong Kong also pay attention to elite students who should know subject of mathematics as good as the high-level mathematics compared with Harvard, for example. Now, many people ask me about how I feel about Hong Kong students. They are all very good. As I said, the gold medal, for example, I think they deserve to come to Harvard as a student. I don't think there's any question that I will argue with that. But on the other hand, to be very frank, I've been in Harvard for the last 28 years, and I've observed the very best student, American student, come to Harvard and come to MIT and come to several very major universities. The very, very best, I'm not talking about the average, the very, very best are still better than our own students here. They are very creative, but they also very, very deep knowledge of mathematics. Not only they know that well, they actually can use it in a very deep manner. Some of them, I have to learn from them, even when they were in high school. I mean, being a professor, I have to learn what they know. And this is really impressive, that they know the subject well, but also they can use it well. And I think with this group, although they are small, maybe they're about in the order of 20 very good mathematicians who are trained in America in that way. But these 20 people will be able to lead American mathematics for a long way. And I hope that mainland China, Hong Kong, or Taiwan would be able to train similar level quality students. And I hope this will be done, but this only with collaboration with Hong Kong government, Ronnie, and the university together, all together, because it's not one person who can do it. Students, when they see they can pass exam without much effort, they don't want to learn. And this is a natural tendency that we learn. So I hope we all can work together, and I hope this trend of that businessmen, people who are well-to-do, support pure science will continue. And I believe that China is a great country, and so is Hong Kong as a city of China. And I will put all my effort to help if there's any need. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Yao.